Stosh here, and I'm trying to catch up with answers to some requests that I got when I asked back in July, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to get around to this one. So my thanks to TLDNOLAN, who asked me about my knowledge and opinions about different types of guitar strings. So I'm going to discuss Phosphor Bronze, 80-20 bronze, should actually be called brass, but we all call them bronze, and nickel bronze and their characteristics. So let's just start off. Firstly, I must say that I'm so terribly old that I can remember a time before the advent of phosphor bronze strings. So we had the choice of two. And whenever I broke a string back in the late 60s, early 70s, I'd pop along to the music shop, ask for a set of guitar strings. Now, I knew nothing about strings, string gauges, string types, whatever. So what I got, when I got home, I'd open the envelope and there'd be a yellow type, and sometimes there'd be a silver type, and I just put them on. The silver type must have been nickel, I guess, and they were often greasy to the touch, had to be wiped down. And that's probably some sort of anti-rust preservative or something like that. But both types were often corroded from new as soon as I took them out of the envelope. As time went by, I worked up my guitar brands from my Harmony to Gibson, Epiphone, Guild, and ultimately to Martin. But strangely, I settled on Guild strings for a long time. I don't know whether they were Phosphor Bronze or whether they were 80-20s, but they seem to be stable, and I used them for a few years. I think they stopped making it at some point, but I don't know when. Sometime in the mid-70s, this new type of string emerged called Phosphor Bronze, which, if I remember correctly, sounded better and lasted longer than the ones I've been using. And I've been using them for many, many, many years, largely coming in these packs. The EJ17s went on my Dreadnoughts, which were medium gauge, of course, and the EJ16s for my triple O's and smaller. I've discussed that elsewhere, I'm sure. And I still do, but something else has entered my life now, the excess strings, which I have talked about elsewhere. And if I remember at the end of this, I'll just mention again. I know some fine guitarists who still prefer bronze brass 80-20s. And I changed to PBs, Phosphor Bronze, and have used them now for ages and ages. I experimented with coated strings, elixirs, when they first came out, but the coating shed peeled off, flaked off, and they corroded very quickly, and I didn't really like the feel of them, and as I don't have acid sweat or anything like that, I saw no advantage, and I went back to uncoated EJ16s and 70s, etc. I also used a Dario nickel bronze on my resonators and my archtops and mandolin. Usually, I don't play any of them much now. To be honest, as my experience with 80-20s was so long ago, I had to do a little bit of online research to remind myself why I preferred Phosphor Bronze. I play mostly Collins guitars, which are very well balanced across the strings. A characteristic which some people consider bright, compared to Martins, which have that bass prominence. But I like the mid-range, and I have adequate bass in my Collins. So, personal preference on that. But my age-related hearing loss is mainly in the upper ranges, and I find that I need to work on that with my hearing aids. Now, since October 2024, when I had a rather dramatic hearing loss event in my right ear, I have to wear very complex hearing aids which allow me to EQ the music programs the way one might do on a PA mixer. So what I do, I have to EQ the trebles back, down a little bit, and the mid-range up, and leave the bass on medium. That works for my hearing. It doesn't change the sound of the instruments to you, of course. So let's have a think about the way that these different strings work, and just comment on nickel bronze. I like nickel bronze, and I use them on my resonators. Here's one of two. I have my square neck dobro, and also on this. And I use them on my arch tops, or my arch top now. For a quality that I perceive in them, which is rather uncoloured and great at projecting. So let's have a look. Nickel bronze don't tend to corrode, but they do get quieter over time. Now that's okay with the reso because the volume is in the cone, and similar to the arch top, which is, of course, it's about the resonance and the projection of that body design. I'm now going to go through all of the three different ones and just talk about the positives and negatives, or the positives really, what they're excelling back. Phosphor bronze strings, they're warm and they're full. 92% copper, 8% tin, and what does that leave you? A smidgen of phosphorus, which is very small but very important. It gives it an enhanced mid-range. Phosphor bronze strings have a more pronounced mid-range than 80/20s, which is what I like. Warmer bass, balanced treble. Long-lasting tone, longer lasting tone, nothing lasts forever. The addition of phosphorus makes the strings more resistant to corrosion than 80/20s. Their warmer tone can also help balance out naturally bright sounding guitars. Okay, so that's Phosphor bronze. 80/20s, bright and crisp. Out of the box, great. 80% copper, 20% zinc. Known for their lively, bell-like and projecting tone. A scooped mid-range, so it's not so focused on those middle strings, but sparkling highs and strong, deep bass. Less emphasis on that mid-range. An initial sparkle. They are focused, but they lose their crisp, lighter sound rather rapidly. Nickel bronze strings, clear, focused, unnuanced, allows the voice of the instrument to be clean and uncoloured. Powerful projection, strong mid-range presence, best for cutting through a mix, focused and projecting. They stand out in a rhythm section, so they're good for arch tops in a swing band, and for mandolins in bluegrass, etc. They can also add clarity and projection to darker guitars, with mahogany tops, such like. So which strings should you choose? Well, for warmth and richness, choose Phosphor bronze. With this, for crystal highs and strong bass and scooped middles, try the 80/20s. For clarity and projection, use nickel bronze. TLDNOLAN also asked me to comment about how they work well with different woods. I don't see a difference. I use the same things on my mahogany backed guitars as my rosewood guitars. So I can't comment on that. It's just the subtle differences of the back and sides, but I have noticed that with maple backs, as you would have on an arch top and a resonator, well, that's walnut, but you know, and with my Waterloo WL12, which has maple back, the nickel bronze tends to work rather well. So those are my personal opinions. I used to use those. Now I have gone back to coated strings, not because they're coated, just because they're excellent and they last forever. D'Addario XS, and they're on all my flat tops, and I use for everything else D'Addario nickel bronze. And I've tried other things, but I always come whimpering back to D'Addario strings. They're just consistent and they do the job. So there we are. That's my opinion, TLD Nolan. If you have any queries, any questions, please put them in the details below. I always read those comments and I always try to answer them. And if you have any ideas for future videos like this, please let me know. I'm always looking for an excuse to get in front of you and spout off and hopefully help people. Of course, I'm still doing my one-to-one lessons over Zoom. I'm getting a bit busy again this time of year, but I still have a couple of vacancies. If you have been, thanks for watching. Bye.